Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip,
And I'm CJ.
and it is Wednesday in the Riv, and we've got a lot to talk about. But I just want to say something. Monday's show we did a lot of talking about some very important numbers, but uh, didn't mention, and it's always worth mentioning. Monday actually was the anniversary of the beginning of the Battle of Iwo Jima in the South Pacific. And we all know that they defaced uh, the memorial down there, which again obviously is reprehensible. But I felt we need to mention that fact that February 19th is the anniversary of the beginning of the Battle of Iwo Jima. So with that, we can move on to a whole bunch of other things. CJ, what? I know we got a big plate today. So what are we?
Yeah, well, I think the first thing, because this really is a big local issue, is the fact that the governor has told Stewart to get out. So Stewart Medical, go away. We don't want you. She's ordered that the Stewart Medical Group provide all their financials by the end of the week and to turn all their hospitals over to another operator. Like it's easy. Like, you just turn around and say, okay, we'll give it to you. The problem they have is when Stewart bought these hospitals, which used to own the land that they stand on, they sold the land to an investment group. And they in turn pay the investment group rent on the land. A lot of hospitals are not going to want to pay rent to somebody. So that may be one of the things that's going to be difficult to find another operator for these hospitals. Number two, a lot of medical groups are now part of Steward, like Hawthorne Medical. They're actually a Steward Physicians Group. You have hospitals in the Boston area, which are part of Steward. You have medical groups in the Boston area that are part of Steward. So what happens to those medical groups? Are they going to have to reform into a new group? Is it going to be different now? Is the new hospital going to take over those groups? It's going to be interesting to see. This is a bigger issue, Governor Healy, than you make it out to be. You make it sound so easy. Just turn your hospitals over to somebody else. Let some other operator handle them. That's not the way it works.
Well, our governor has an amazing ability to just uh, think everything that she wants to do. She can snap her fingers, but anything else she wants done, people can do the same thing, and that's not true. We all know, she's cut services to some handicapped and things like that, while she's going to give billions to. We're becoming as big a joke as California very rapidly, and it's amazing to me to see how people think that it will take. It took a lot of time to get to where we are as a nation and a state and places like this. But what is mind-boggling to me is how quickly, because of politics, all the good that it took hundreds of years to get to a place can be undone in a very short time. We look at nationally that Biden has destroyed the United States internationally, nationally, the country, the crime, everything else in one term. Paul's done it to Fall River. Now Healy is doing it to the state. Yeah, just snap your fingers, as you said. Just snap your fingers. We're talking about people's health care. Apparently, the only thing that is in her mind is illegals. Because the fact is that she's cutting services, telling cities they can raise taxes, while she plays the political game and said, well, I'm going to give you more money in local aid. But if you want to raise money, I'm going to authorize you to charge more for excise taxes and meals taxes and things like that on a local level. So I'll let you be the bad guy and I'll play the good one. And it's astounding to see how quickly bad, corrupt politicians can unravel the good that it took decades to get to. And you're right, CJ. This is absurd. This is something that's serious. I mean, people have doctors in the Steward group that they've been going to for a very long time. You and I included. And she just thinks this is a real easy thing. It's not only the hospitals. As you said, most physicians now are part of groups. They've all, that's what's happened in the last few years with the medical profession. These people are all in groups. Mass General's got a group, because I go to Mass General. All my specialists are at Mass General fundamentally. And yeah, it's just do it. Just do it. We don't care. Just shut up and do it. So that's outrageous. It is outrageous, and I'll let you.
Being somebody who has worked in medicine for many, 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 many years, decades, I can tell you that I've seen the changes from the 1980s to today. And there's some major changes. I mean, you no longer have the single practitioner who sits in his office, or the doctor who makes house calls. We saw that go away a long time ago. And then we saw the family practitioner went from one doctor to 3 doctors to 5 doctors to an entire group. Okay, Steward has their group. South Coast, Charlton, St. Luke's, Toby, they have their group. They have the South Coast Physicians Group. And this is a way to maximize their returns, because reimbursements are so low. And this is the big complaint that Steward has. Most of their hospitals in Massachusetts are in, I'm going to say this and people are going to get upset, low income areas. When 70% of your patients are on Medicare and Mass Health, which is Medicaid, and the reimbursements for Medicare and Mass Health are some of the lowest reimbursements in the country. That tells you how these hospitals are supposed to stay afloat. It doesn't work that way. And when you're looking at a facility or facilities like Steward Hospitals, they're a for-profit. They're for-profit. And when 70% of their patients they can't make a profit on, they've got a problem. I mean, if I were the one that was the chief executive officer and we started looking at taking over Morton and St. Anne's and St. Elizabeth's and Holy Family and whatnot, I would have turned around and said, look, we're never going to make a profit in these communities. Never. It's just not going to happen. Think about this. Why do you think the diocese got rid of St. Anne's Hospital? Why did Taunton get rid of Morton? These are the reasons why. They are expensive. They're expensive to run, and they're expensive to keep afloat. And then you've got them with specialty facilities like St. Anne's has Hudner Oncology, which, by the way, is part of the Dana-Farber system. And Dana-Farber is no longer part of their system that they used to be part of. They used to be part of a hospital group. They just left it. They're staying alone. Their system is going to stay alone. Obviously, something went wrong or something's better for them that way. And Dana-Farber is the be-all, end-all of cancer treatment and cancer research. We're lucky to have that in Fall River. but now we might lose it because St. Anne's is going somewhere else. Cancer treatment's expensive. It's not cheap. And people need it.
No, you're right. And, you know, to show you how it's not just smaller areas that do this, as you know, I've been going to Mass General for years. My specialists are all up there fundamentally. Even Mass
Because you're smart.
General, which is an immense hospital. They have campuses not only in Boston, they have campuses all over the state too. They've actually brought someone else into their group because it's now Mass General Brigham. Brigham is part of the Mass General. It's MGH Brigham. So those two have consolidated. So it's something that we see. But these elitists, these people who don't care about poor people, which will segue into something we will talk about later. They don't care about the average people. They don't have any idea of how the average people have to live. They don't. Apparently Healy doesn't understand that. 60% of the people are living paycheck to paycheck, and they're not doing a damn thing to help us. So with that, we'll segue into the opposite. Milton is basically given the finger to the MBTA, like all rich communities do, because they don't want them telling them what to build. They're going to build whatever the hell they want because they are a rich community. I just popped it up. The average median household income in Milton is $153,971. And that was in 21, and now it is now 107. As of the last U.S. Census, it's 170,531, which is more than 3 times the household income of the city of Fall River. So all these communities, like Newton, like Milton, they're not letting the MBTA and the elitists who control these things get their hands on their cities, because we've seen what this has done to Fall River. That land grab, they finally got it. The crew has got it. All the Richie Riches, and we can name them all. We all know who they are. The rogues gallery of the people who are getting the tips and the ties and the H-dips and the land for free. They got their mitts on something they've been coveting for the last 30 years. They got their mitts on the waterfront. And they don't care. I mean, even New Bedford. The mayor of New Bedford is trying to get the correct amount of money for people for their land. But no, in Fall River, we're still giving away parcels for $1 and $5 to these rich people, giving them deals, while the citizenry suffer. And it's tragic. But Milton is, a lot of people don't know Milton. It's a fairly small town. I think the population was like 28,400 or something like that. Small town, rich town. But you see, they get to do whatever they want because they got the money to do whatever they want. And their poverty rate is like 5.4. Fall Rivers is closer to 19.6 last time I checked, nearly 20%. So it's a different city. But the problem is the only cities that Maura Healey pays attention to are the Miltons and the Newtons into places like that, while they have a giant dump on the gateway cities. And speaking of the gateway cities, there was an article about our our friendly rival down the road, New Bedford. You sent me a link, I believe, CJ. You can
Yep.
expand on this, but they were now recognized as the leader of the gateway cities in housing. Unlike Fall River, where our mayor is the leader in opposing housing of any other kind except market rate, they were selected as the leader. So what's the moral of this story? I guess we should all move to New Bedford. Or maybe we can sign a petition. All the people who aren't rich in the city should sign a petition, and maybe we should just become part of New Bedford so we can have Mitchell for a mayor. And with that, CJ, I know you sent me the link, and I know you know about it. So just let's just tell them a little bit more about this.
It's very interesting. I mean, I get these things all the time, and it makes for an interesting. And I believe that was from Mass Inc., who produced that, and it's they have a newsletter called the Gateway Cities newsletter, and it's from the Innovation Institute. And according to them, New Bedford is taking the leadership on housing as a model for gateway cities. Obviously, Paul isn't following it. A new analysis of local and regional housing needs by New Bedford's Regeneration Project marks an inflection point in the statewide housing crisis. This in-depth report provides insight into rapidly escalating housing costs and actions that private and public sector leaders in Greater New Bedford can take to get to the root of the problem. The root of the problem is these developers. They're buying up everything and charging outrageous rents. I mean, I didn't review that report too clearly, but here's where I have a problem with this. This report was generated by the New Bedford Economic Development Council. Okay? And anything that's attached to economic development to me, I don't trust because of Fall River's economic development people. And they were tasked to provide a long-term vision and strategy to advance the sustainable regeneration of the New Bedford economy. Well, ask Paul and he'll tell you that we need more market rate housing. Forget about that affordable housing stuff, because if you start talking about that, we can't have it. So it makes it very interesting when you're looking at this report. The sources that were shown to Mass Inc. to devote the better part of 2023 to analyzing housing trends in Greater New Bedford. Okay, we know what the housing trends are. So what they've decided to do is they're going to be pursuing research questions with a real sense of urgency. The Healy administration, Maura, is working on a statewide production plan and recently formed a commission and advisory council to inform the strategy. A true understanding of gateway city housing needs and this is important, a true understanding of gateway city housing needs and the considerable variation across these markets will be critical to the deliberations. We can't just say, hey, market rate housing is the way it works. We see what that's doing to Fall River. It's critical. Okay? And their big focus is the recent expansion of the Housing Development Incentive Plan program, otherwise known as HDIP, demonstrates how gateway cities can shape state policy for the better. By joining forces, they help others appreciate the outsized contributions that they will provide with policies attuned to the unique needs of weaker markets. Wrong. The H-dip has destroyed the Fall River market. The H-dip is destroying the city of Fall River. Because to get an H-dip, you also have to get a TIF or a tie. So you get double the tax bang for their buck. And they don't do it for affordable housing. If they did it for affordable housing, I'd say something. But so far, no H-dip money's been used for affordable housing because Paul doesn't care about that because you're poor. You don't own a house. Get out of here. Move to New Bedford if you like New Bedford better. Get out. Go jump in the Taunton River. Just a few of his statements. And this is what happens at Fall River. They say that it's great, but it's not. Understand, the lies are right there in front of your face, but sometimes the smack doesn't happen.
Well, let me tell you, the whole problem is that none of this stuff is ever going to work because Maura Healey speaks like all politicians do with forked tongues. Okay.
I was going to say the same thing.
She's talking about looking at the root cause. We know what the root cause is. The rich are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer. And all these programs that are developed by politicians ultimately end up being skewed toward giving the people who need it the least the most breaks. Just like the H-dip. And you started that article by talking about the nationwide housing shortage. But we don't even recognize that in Fall River, so it's not nationwide. Because Fall River stands as a beacon to ignorance on reality. Because the rich run Fall River. You see, that's the great thing. People don't understand a very, very simple thing. Why does Milton do what it does and give the finger to the MBTA? Why does Newton give the finger to the MBTA? Simple. Everybody in Newton's rich. Well, most of them are. They don't have 4 or 5 people running the city, carpet bagging. They all got money. They all go to the town meeting, and when they talk, they listen. And they push their agenda. And that's who gives the politicians their donations. That's why these things never work. That's why the only way to make this work is throw all their asses out. Change them like dirty diapers. Get rid of your council. Get rid of your state reps. Clean them out. We're going to get one new state rep because Schmidt isn't retiring. Can the other 2. Can them all. Why do they hate Trump so much? It's not his tweets. They say, oh, he's a meanie. He's a maniac. No, he's a businessman. And to show you how ridiculous they are, they're prosecuting him for taking loans from a bank that he paid back. And the bank testified for him. They don't want Trump around because Trump might run government like a business. See, businesses don't double the amount of people who work when they don't have the money. They do more with less in poor economic times.
Unlike Fall River.
They tighten their belt. But no, this is the problem. You see, people just, I don't know, you just don't pay attention. You listen to that. How many years of this Kool-Aid are you going to drink before you overdose on the sugar? I don't know. They never fix anything. Government can't fix it. Or as Groucho Marx once said, and I'm paraphrasing, I'll have to look it up and get it exactly, but you can look it up. Groucho Marx, one of my favorite quotes about government is, government finds a problem where there is none, then figures out a way to make it worse and spend as much money as they can on it. That's what government does. They've identified the problem of housing. Yeah, we got a critical shortage of affordable housing in the state of Massachusetts. And what does Healy do? HDIP don't work. Workforce don't work. Public housing don't work because you have to have an ultra low income level. So who gets stuck? Who gets screwed the most? The average working person in a gateway city. It's not rocket science, people. It's just common sense. These politicians do exactly what it says in that book I'm looking at in my bookcase, The Labor's Untold Story. Since 1850, they don't even hide it. We're the rich, we own all the politicians, and we're never going to lose control of the country. And that's what it is. And with that, back to you, CJ.
I have your quote, by the way. It is, politics is the art of looking for trouble, finding it everywhere, diagnosing it incorrectly, and applying the wrong remedies. That's the quote.
Well, I paraphrased it. It's a very long quote, and I haven't looked at it in a long time.
I
got the
stopped it there, yes.
Yeah, but you know, and I mean, look, Groucho Marx was a great comedian.
Yes, he was.
And I used to love his show, and but he also made some great social commentary comments. That's one of it, and they all did. I mean,
right.
And this is the key. This is what government does best. You give them something, and if you know they're the only place in the world, private industry, they got one guy in charge of maintenance to screw in 10,000 light bulbs in the factory. The government has 10,000 people to screw in one light bulb. And they wonder why that taxes always go up.
Thank you. And it's very interesting to see. We got people asking about the upcoming election, and I'm trying to answer it. And so we'll have to see what happens there. But just to, I got to get back to the MBTA issue, because the only other city so far that's had any town that's had any aggravation about the MBTA law was Holden, Massachusetts. They were sued, and the case was dismissed because they said the community housing people had no standing. But here's the other thing. Towns that also are not following the 2023 deadlines for the MBTA law include Carver, Berkeley, Marshfield, Middleborough. Look at that. 3, 4, all 4 of them are all from the South Coast.
Yeah, Berkeley's pretty close, and
Yeah.
there was also a couple of lawsuits. What's that little town? That little rural town that was suing them about that entire law. There were 2 communities with lawsuits, so you got 4 people. 4 of them. Newton gave them the finger too.
Right.
And that's the problem. Milton, Newton, now around here, Berkeley. Listen, people who pay attention know that this is not a good thing. When the government tells you this is good for you, it's never good for you. All right? This gives control to the richest elitists. They want to take over an area. They have absolute control. You've lost your autonomy as a community. Whether you're in a town or a city, when the MBTA comes rolling in, you've lost that. That is now like a demilitarized zone. They own it. And they're going to do anything they want, and poor people don't have any say in the MBTA, because if we did, it would be shut down. It would be it would go back to being a local transit authority within Greater Boston. Because the MBTA has proven to be an absolute abysmal failure. It just broke down last week again. And they were complaining about people taking forever to get to their destinations. They're billions and billions of dollars in the hole. We showed you articles when we tried to tell you not to let these clowns come down here. But no. So who's benefiting? The people who have controlled the waterfront and wanted to control the waterfront for the last 40 years. They're getting everything they want. They're getting all the tips, everything they want. All the people who always got the HDIP loans, always got the zoning, always got everything. They get everything they want, and you got the barota. So with that, back to you.
And they also get the variances for parking so that we can make it more difficult to plow snow, find parking, and make our neighborhoods miserable. And this is what the ZBA and the city of Fall River are doing with the help of the governor and the help of our state reps. We're making this wonderful. We're making it wonderful. Fall River is going to be a wonderful place to live. So think about that for a moment. And just to answer the question that's out there, so far, Milton has lost $140,000 in state grant money. They cannot apply for the Mass Works grants, which are the things that fix your streets and sidewalks. They cannot apply for housing grants. And they had a project that was underway for their seawall, because I guess they're a sea community, and they took the grant money away from that. So if you suffer weather damage from the sea, your fault. You should have worked with the MBTA. The funny thing about the MBTA law is, and this is the weird part about it, the law says you must have the multifamily zoning. It doesn't say you have to allow the building of multifamily units. Again, the loophole in the law.
Well, yeah, but CJ, you see, that's the problem. See, Milton is, like I said, around 28,400. Right. They've got money. They can afford to lose that stuff.
That's right.
Because they want to keep their autonomy and be able to build their community based on the residents that are in there. And they're fortunate. Right. They're rich. The only people, but let's look at this, what you just said. The state are criminals. What do you call that except coercion?
That's right.
They tell you if you don't let these bums come in and rape your city, they're going to give you less money. The only way they'll even give you a dime is if you let these people come in and just completely take over a section of your city and your community and do whatever the hell they want with it. If you did that to somebody, or I did that to somebody, we'd get arrested. Saying you're trying to coerce somebody into a business deal. They might even charge you with a RICO violation. I don't know. But you see, this is the government. The government can be as corrupt as they want, get into any criminal activity they want, and they justify it. They just change the rules. Oh, the Patriot Act. The hell with the Constitution. They do it all the time. And you know who does it? The people who are exempt from all the laws. The rich people. Gavin Newsom had dinner at the French Laundry with all his friends with no masks when he mandated the entire state of California to lock themselves in their houses and wear masks inside. Did they prosecute the governor of California? The multi-millionaire governor of California? No. Did they prosecute all the rich healthcare people who were making trillions of dollars with the COVID? No. They had their dinner. Nancy Pelosi can go get her hair done when nobody could leave their house. That's the whole problem. And this is what infuriates me. Why don't you go to vote? Why don't you throw these people out? I mean, they just defecate on your head every single day with no they don't care. But they lie and they cajole and you forget. So what are they doing now? They're going to push the EV mandate down to 2030 so it won't interfere with this election, because they know that people can't afford electric cars. They've been a dismal failure. And this is what government does. But government gets to do anything they want with no consideration of prosecution. And that's the problem. What they're doing with the MBTA to these communities is fundamentally coercion. They're saying, you don't do it, we're not going to give you any money. Well, that's the state imposing something on a community which is prohibited by 2.5. They said if you impose any kind of restriction, you gotta pay for it. But they actually take money away from you. So this is what they do is fundamentally a criminal activity, and they get away with it. And Maura Healey doesn't. I'm hoping that she's a one-term governor. I've seen a lot of bad governors, but I hope she's gone. And I'll tell you, I don't think in my lifetime, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, CJ, I'd have never seen a majority in the House or Senate of Massachusetts of Republicans, ever, not even close. But there have been Republican governors. We've had quite a few Republican governors. So we need that kind of balance. So let's hope that somebody runs against Healey, because so far she's proven to be a woke, useless governor. And with that, CJ, I'll turn it back to you.
I hear you there. And no, we haven't had. We have a one-party system in Massachusetts. And what's really interesting about that is that Marcy Yetkin, who has for a long time been a long-standing Democrat, long-standing committee member, has always worked for Democratic campaigns, done wonderful jobs, has left the Democratic Party because they're not the party that they used to be. It's just like people are saying the Republican Party is not what the Republican Party used to be. No, because politics in general is not what it used to be. And that's the big problem we have. We have a political system which is broken, and the people don't want to fix it.
And you're right, and they do nothing for the people. And I said I would get this in because I got something from one of our viewers to remind you how little they care about the people. They just forget about everything. It was pointed out to me that there were two really nice bathrooms down there in the area of Heritage State Park that were opened during, I believe, the Sutter administration, they were closed for COVID and never reopened, and people are going to use porta potties down there. So what happened to those bathrooms? Why aren't they reopened? They want to make the waterfront a crown jewel, and they got 2 bathrooms down there that have been derelict since COVID. Nobody even hears about those things, and thank you for that heads up. And I just wanted to get that one in because I did promise we would at least begin to talk about that. We'll do some further research into that on this show. So with that, CJ, back to you.
Well, that's what you get from the Parks Department. They don't have enough people to maintain them, probably. We just saw that at the city council meeting when they try to make Nancy Smith look like a liar. Okay? That was a setup. There was no question about it. And this is what happens at Fall River. Politics as usual. And
I don't know about, we don't have enough money to maintain them. We got a hell of a lot of maintenance. We have a hell of a lot of maintenance budgets. We got a lot of people making a lot of money doing maintenance. And
Well,
they're not doing it. And we are waiting on those pictures on the mold because
well,
the
here's the
maintenance
kicker.
of the school department.
Here's
And
the kicker on
they
that.
will be coming.
The
But
mayor
listen,
had a reorganization plan for DCM. He hired a person for $140,000 a year to implement that reorganization plan. And guess what hasn't been done? The reorganization. So once again, money thrown good after bad. This is where we are in Fall River. You elected it. You deal with it. You paid for it. Suck it up, Buttercup. Well, with that, I think it's time that we end. And I want to thank you all for watching. And remember, stay safe, stay angry, and hold your politicians accountable. We'll see you again on Friday. Have a great day.